Conor McGregor went from having the fastest knockout in UFC to sending some of the world's greatest selfies.
I can't quit staring at Conor's. I can't stop.
But at his peak, McGregor wasn't just a trendy headline. He was untouchable. He weaponized timing and distance to make elite fighters look trash. But nobody actually talks about the secret advantages that helped him reach the top in the first place. Let's break down the setups behind his most famous knockouts and why his so-called fall off isn't what people think. See, most people thought McGregor just had this ridiculous power in his left hand.
Nobody can take that left hand shot.
Which is fair because he would throw it and people would end up face down on the canvas. But it actually had little to do with power. It was mainly his timing and accuracy.
Precision beats power, and timing beats speed all day of the week.
What separated him was his ability to weaponize his distance. He had a wide karate style stance that allowed him to bounce in and out of range, and this is great for someone who likes to counterpunch. For example, you see Michael Venom Page still using this style. Conor would bait his opponents to lunge in and then boom, left hand. But here's where it gets interesting. The next few advantages I'm gonna bring up, nobody really talks about, and that's because it sounds like hating, but it's the truth. And these advantages played a huge role into making McGregor a star, so we have to talk about it. Conor was a massive featherweight. He cut a lot of weight. He walked around between 183 to 187 pounds, but somehow stepped on the scale weighing 145. That size advantage made him harder to hit, take less damage, and dictate range. Bruh, he had a 74-inch reach, which is ridiculous for that weight class. But how did he cut that much weight and not have it affect his performance? Back then, fighters were allowed to rehydrate with IVs.
The IV bag, 16 pounds of IV. My body would just suck that water out of that bag.
Wow.
And then they took it away from me.
But right after the UFC banned IV usage, Conor moved up a weight class, and all of a sudden he wasn't untouchable anymore. But that's the thing, Conor's rise wasn't just about his skill, it was about playing the system better than anyone else. The same way he played the scale, he also played his matchups. McGregor's early UFC run was stacked with just strikers, which was perfect for his counterpunching style. The only elite wrestler he had to deal with was on a 2-week notice. Even though he had a good strategy of making weight and selecting his opponents, it wasn't just about that, it was also about how he fought. So let's break down some of his nastiest knockouts and see exactly how he set them up. The 13-second knockout. This is Conor's fastest KO, which is ironic because he set up the counter months before he even threw the punch.
I felt when we stared down, I felt his right hand was twitching a little bit, but it was a subtle tell for me. If he lets that right hand go, I will not be there.
Conor comes out and immediately takes the center of the octagon. And being someone who likes to move back and counter, this ensures he has plenty of room to do so. And look how wide his stance is. That's that karate style. And this means faster in and out movements. He starts with the rear straight punch, which is common to use instead of a jab when you're in that southpaw orthodox matchup. Then he throws a quick oblique kick. Now these are both low risk, long range attacks, and he doesn't throw these with the intent to do damage. He's setting a trap, and Aldo takes the bait with his chin in the air, which is crazy. Now McGregor counters the right hand almost the same way every time. He either just pulls his head back or steps back and then responds with his left hand. Now because Aldo wasn't even in range to land the right hand, Conor didn't even have to evade it. He just threw the left, and look where it landed, right on the chin. Now it doesn't matter how durable someone is, if their whole body weight is exploding forward and you hit them on the chin going in the opposite direction, there's a 99% chance they're going to sleep. And next we got the Eddie Alvarez KO. Now if you ever hear someone call a fight a masterclass, this has to be what they mean. McGregor had Eddie looking lost the whole fight, but if you slow it down, you see McGregor use the same setup over and over to keep landing the left hand. He would take away the ability of Eddie to utilize his lead hand, forcing him to punch with his rear hand. And this is important to being a successful counterpuncher because you don't want to just guess what your opponent is going to throw, you want to force them to throw the move you want to counter. Conor loved to use a pullback or slip against the right hand. As you can see, he did this multiple times in the fight and ended the fight with the same exact setup. Now whether Conor was dominating or in a close fight, he had a set of attacks he used the most. His most underrated being his front kick. So Conor used the rear leg front kick to control distance and disrupt his opponent's rhythm. Now this is a long range, low risk tool that's really good at frustrating opponents, and that gets them to rush their attacks right into counters. Now he also uses a lead leg hook kick. This move is a perfect example of why Conor is so dangerous. It's not the strike itself, it's the fact that almost nobody trains to defend it. Now when a fighter throws something you don't see every day, it instantly makes them unpredictable. You're now second guessing everything they throw. Conor would use this kick to throw off timing, disrupt balance, and keep opponents guessing. Another one of his common attacks is the spinning back kick. Now this can be seen as flashy, but it's not just for show, it's a serious threat. He throws them fast and clean, targeting both the body and the head. When someone spins, your instincts kick in and scream danger. Even if it doesn't land flush, it forces opponents to hesitate and back up, giving Conor more control of range. Plus, like the hook kick, it's something fighters don't see often, which makes him harder to read. The spinning kick isn't just about landing damage, it's about creating fear, unpredictability, and setting up that straight left hand he's known for. Now the most successful technique Conor McGregor used all the time was the pull counter straight left, and his setup for it was almost always the same. I'm convinced the fighters back then must not have been watching footage of their opponents. Anyways, let's break it down. He doesn't just react to someone's rear punch. It's not elite reflexes, it's planned. He makes them throw the punch he wants to counter. By framing his lead hand on his opponent's lead hand, he completely shuts it down. That forces them to throw their rear hand, which is exactly what he's waiting for. As soon as they commit, Conor leans just out of range, making them miss by as little distance as possible. And then he fires his straight left. The more explosive his opponent, the harder the hit lands. It's a simple trap, but it works. Now everyone is saying McGregor fell off and he isn't as good anymore, but let's actually take a look at his losses. Against Nate Diaz, he moved up 2 weight classes. No fighter that moves up 2 weight classes is supposed to win. Then he faced Khabib, one of the best grapplers in UFC history, if not the best. He could have had that fight at any time in his career and he would lose every single time. That's the worst possible matchup for him. And then the Dustin Poirier trilogy. You got me there. He really just didn't have a response to the calf kicks. Dustin just had a better game plan. But even then, he still didn't look bad. And that's not even his original weight class anyway. Conor's an all-time great featherweight. And when he moved up, he lost that edge. But at his peak, there's a reason fighters still copy his stance and setups. Conor's style wasn't magic, it was smart. Even now, fighters study him because his striking was ahead of its time. But the fight game moves on. If you don't evolve, it'll catch you. If you fight southpaw or want to beat southpaws, we have a full striking course completely free in our Bang and Pivot community. Link is in the description.